All right, good stuff, good stuff. So we'll go ahead and open up with a word of prayer, all right, and then we'll just get started from there. Father God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for just another day that you allowed us to see that wasn't promised. We thank you for your angels' protection as we drove up and down the dangerous highways. We pray for those who are here and those who are yet making their way out and those who aren't going to be able to make it, God, that you would just cover them and be with them. Lord God, that even this time that we're here, that you would sanctify it and allow for us to hear from heaven, Father. You said where two or three are gathered, you'd be in the midst. So we thank you for your presence. And we thank you for just a deeper understanding of what it means to be a leader, what's entailed in the role of leadership, God, and then your calling on our lives in the various forms that it's going to take, Lord. We thank you for every ministry that's going to grow, for every person that's here, for every seed that's planted.
Yes,
Lord God, we call upon you to just give us creative, witty ideas that we might be the leaders you've called us to be. Yeah. So thank you for this time and this place. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. All right, so we're talking about leadership. All right, and this is our second session that we've done. Now, I'm tracking, we got new people, so we're going to recap from our first session in order that we might get everybody on the same page. And then we're going to hit basically the last page, which was what we did not do at the end of last session. So we're going to do pages 1 and 2 as a recap, and then page 3 is going to be our primary focus for this evening's session. All right. So without further ado, let's talk about it. What is leadership? That's what question number 1 on your paperwork should ask. What is leadership? And then we begin by giving some examples. So in the Army, we define leadership with 3 words: purpose, direction, and motivation. Now you have fill in the blanks so that you can kind of keep notes, running and keep kind of a running set of knowledge. So we have purpose, direction, and motivation. All right, and as simple as it sounds, one who is a leader, provides purpose for whatever the task is, motivation to get it accomplished, and the direction for how you're going to accomplish it. Now, the Army's definition is not the only definition. There are other leadership organizations, and one of the number 1 leadership people, John Maxwell, says leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. When you really begin to consider what that entails, this idea that I'm leading you by your influence. I follow people because they have influence on me. And then consequently, the amount of influence will dictate how effective of a leader I am and how many people actually I will be able to lead. In the dictionary, you get the definition for leadership as the action of leading a group of people or an organization. The action of leading a group of people or an organization. I know there's a couple of fill in the blanks there. So again, from the dictionary, you get the action of leading a group of people or an organization. The art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. So again, you have the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. So the dictionary's definition for leadership is 2 phases: the action of leading a group of people or an organization, and the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. All right, another famous leadership guru type guy, Warren Bennis, says leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. So again, for our initial set of fill in the blanks, you should have what is leadership, and the Army's definition is purpose, direction, and motivation. John Maxwell says that leadership is influence. The dictionary says it's the action of leading a group of people or an organization. The art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. Warren Bennis says leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. So from all of these, we can pull bits and pieces of what becomes our definition of leadership. I I can sit up here and tell you a specific definition, but I've just given you those. What's important is that as future leaders and as current leaders, and if you haven't realized yet, you are a leader. All right, so let me go ahead and congratulate you. All right, in case you are like looking for the certificate, here it is. Congratulations, you're a leader. Okay, you have been leading all your life. The reason why we do a class on leadership is so that we can become better at leadership. All right. Now you may say, I've never been in front of a group. I've never been the person up front. I've never had to teach anything. I totally understand that. But how many of you lead in your house? How many of you have ever made a decision on your job? Okay. How many of you, if you have made any decision that was for anybody else, you're a leader. Unless you find some way to say, no, I've never made any decision for anybody but myself. Well, congratulations, you were leading yourself. Okay. Now, let's be honest about it. For some of us, it's a good thing the only person we were leading was ourselves, right? Because some of those decisions ended up over in left field somewhere. That being said, leadership is a continual growth. And when we begin to bring into these definitions into our mindset, then we begin to understand what is that going to look like for ourselves. So how do you define leadership? That was homework for last week, so that we could go ahead and have that kind of idea based on what we had learned from the previous time we were together. And I keep saying last week, but obviously I mean the first Tuesday of the month. So we're going to lead the how do you define leadership, and then this evening, or when you're going back over your notes, go ahead and from everything that you've learned, put in what your definition of leadership is going to be. All right, and let's talk about some biblical examples. All right, so we talked about a few people from the Bible. We talked first about Moses, and I'm going to give you the scriptures that had to do with Moses from a leadership perspective. So you have Numbers chapter 12, verse 3. Numbers 12 and 3. You have Exodus 2, 11 through 13. Exodus chapter 2, verses 11 through 13. And Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 through 24. Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 through 24. Now in all of these, you see different aspects of the leadership role. And what we'll find as we continue in this study on leadership and as we continue to grow is that there are many different aspects that help make up a good leader. Alright, so in some dimensions, your leadership is displayed by your ability to take charge. But in the same aspect, your leadership may be displayed by your ability to ask for help, for your ability to grow a team, for your ability to divide a team and assign different roles. All those take are different aspects of leadership, and Moses displays various forms of those. So in the Numbers 12 and 3, you see his humility. In Exodus 2, 11 through 13, you see his ability to do the right thing. And in Exodus 18, 17 through 24, you see that he took advice and that he needed help. And he was not too big of a leader to think that he did not need help. And I think that is the key thing to keep in the back of your mind. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean you can't ask for help. All right? Never think that you should have to go at it alone. Go ahead.
Say those three again for me, please.
Yes. So Numbers 12 and 3, we see an example of humility, leadership with humility. Exodus 2, 11 through 13, we see an example of doing the right thing. And Exodus 18, 17 through 24, we see an example of taking advice and needing help.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, now David was the second king of Israel. And if you know David's story, he displayed the utmost of patience as a leader. Because at the age of 17, he was appointed to be the next king of Israel. But it would be the age of 37 before he would take over. So we know that leaders display much patience. One of the reasons why people like John Maxwell's leadership is influence is because a specific role does not define your influence. Let me say that again. Your role does not define your influence. And so you see that lived out through the life of David, who had his band of men, who worked in Saul's army, who played the harp for the king, who then went and was sung about. You know, Saul has killed thousands and David has killed 10,000s. Even though he was not the leader, the people flocked to him because he had influence. And so understanding that, but at the same time being able to be patient and wait for your time, was a hallmark of David's leadership skills. David was also brave. You see this in 1 Samuel chapter 17. In his ability to do the right thing, his ability consistently throughout his life to walk the right way. When he had the opportunity to kill Saul and take over his role earlier than God had ordained for him to do, he refrained from doing so. Even though he had all of his guys, all of his married men saying, hey, you should be doing this. You deserve to be king. You've been anointed. Right? And think about that. David was anointed. That's like being called. That's being ordained. You're ordained to do this. It's just not time for it. And so leaders must be patient. Leaders must be willing to wait until the opportunity presents itself in the right manner. All right, Jesus was the ultimate leader, right? Fulfilling everything that was required. And the only scripture you would have gotten from the David was from 1 Samuel chapter 17. But Jesus was the ultimate of leaders when it came to it. And from his life, we can draw many, many parallels and lessons on leadership. So just 4 of them that we talked about last time came from Mark 1:11. Mark 1:11, Jesus was not self-promoting. And all these scriptures for Jesus are just going to come from Mark chapter 1. So Mark chapter 1 verse 11, Jesus is not self-promoting. Mark chapter 1 verses 12 through 13, Jesus is obedient. Jesus is obedient in Mark chapter 1 verses 12 through 13. Mark chapter 1 verse 15, Jesus makes his vision simple. Sometimes we can get caught up in becoming complicated. We think that we need a paragraph-long mission statement, right? 50 words to define our goal. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into what vision looks like tonight. But Jesus kept the vision simple, easy to understand, easy for his followers to push out to those who they came into contact with, so as to allow for easy replication. And Jesus was a team builder. Chapter 1 verse 17, we see Jesus building his team. And one more after that one too, relational. Chapter 1 verse 19, Jesus was relational. So chapter 1 verse 17, Jesus was a team builder. Chapter 1 verse 19, Jesus was relational. Now team building is a key component of being a leader. Oftentimes we think that the leader is the only one. But good leadership is done in teams. Good leadership is the compilation together of talents to achieve the goal. All right, so think about it. Jesus was dynamic. Jesus was capable of touching many people. But Jesus still sent 70 out, right, to prepare the way for him to come. And in much the same way, when we want to replicate our efforts, we want to replicate our impact, we have to be willing to go out. Is that a comment? Okay. All right. Jesus was also relational. Again, that's Mark 1:19. Relationships are the foundation of good leadership. For as much fun as we have on social media, or liking people's posts and sharing and tweeting and retweeting, the real truth at the end of the day is that the face-to-face relationship can never be replaced. And getting things accomplished as a leader means that I'm going to have to be relational. I'm going to have to spend some time with you. I'm going to have to put down the phone and come to know your wants, your likes, your dreams, your wishes, your goals. In order for me to add value to you, I have to know you and what you're trying to accomplish. In order for me to lead you effectively, influence you the way that, you know, a good leader is able to do so, convince you to follow me into whatever we're going and build a team around us that accomplishes great things for the kingdom, we're going to have to be relational. Have to spend time with one another. All right? So, each of us with some work can be great. All right? Again, like I've said before, you're already a leader. So that's not a question of what is, are you a leader or am I going to graduate from leadership school or any of that stuff? Nope, you're already done with that. Now what we're doing is going from good to great. We're refining. We're beginning to identify areas where we may be weak at so that we can strengthen those things to become better. What are some good examples of good leadership that you can model? All right, so take a minute. All right, I'm going to give you literally 2 minutes to think about some examples of good leadership that you've seen. Now, immediately everybody's mind just probably went blank. So let me help you. All right, so you have your heroes, people like Dr. Martin Luther King. You have people like President Obama. You have people like your bosses, your mentors. Think about who's somebody who you would say is a mentor. Who is somebody you would say did well. You have people like Jobs, who runs Apple. Zuckerberg, who runs Facebook. Whether you agree with their politics or their political leanings or even their impact, the truth of the matter is, from a leadership perspective, the purpose of leading an organization to accomplish a task, they do a pretty good job. Apple makes a lot of money, and a lot of people have Apple products, right? The same thing for Facebook. Who's not on Facebook?
Me?
Okay.
I have an account.
Yeah, no, then you have an account, then you fell right in line. Okay? And that impact, right, is proof positive that he's leading his organization. I mean, that's so there's 7 people in here and there's 1 person without it. And it's pretty much what it is generally speaking in the world. So maybe 6 or 8 people are on Facebook. I remember seeing an interesting stat about a year ago that said Facebook is actually larger than some countries. The number of users on Facebook is actually larger than some countries. So, right, but that's impact. That's influence, right? And those are the kind of things we have to keep. So who are some examples of good leadership you can model? It may be your boss, right? It may be a pastor, it may be a teacher, a principal, any number of things. But I'll give you 2 minutes and let you kind of just think through that, and then we'll head to page 2.
So do we write who the person is, or do we write what they do?
Either.
Either.
Yes. Either or both. Either and or both. Because there is some additional lines on the top of page 2. So if you need some extra space. All right, about another 30 seconds.
Good.
All right, and time. Okay, so feel free to continue that thought exercise once you get home and you're following up with your paperwork and kind of going through the notes and stuff. So continuing on top of page 2 in our recap, every leader has strengths and weaknesses. Do you know yours? Every leader has strengths and weaknesses. Do you know yours? That's actually page 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
So every leader has strengths and weaknesses. Do you know yours? And in and of itself, right, that's a true statement. We should all hopefully understand that in some areas you're just not as good as you are in other areas, right? And so it behooves us when we're in a leadership role to understand our strengths and weaknesses. And when we're preparing to take on a leadership role, to understand our strengths and weaknesses. Nathi Sutin means know thyself. Know thyself. Why is that important? Anybody, just why would knowing thyself be important?
Foundation.
Okay. All right. So let's ask this question then. So foundation, simple, right? Easy, makes sense. Why don't people know themselves? Or would you counter that and say, oh, everybody knows themselves?
No.
Okay. So why don't people know themselves?
They haven't taken the time to get to know themselves.
Okay. So you're implying that there's a time component with knowing yourself?
Yeah, I think you have to sit down and kind of really like figure out who you are. Like they were saying, like your strengths, your weaknesses, not what somebody told you, not what my friends are in dance and I dance pretty good too, so that's my strength. Like it's got to be, is this really? And I think you can't do that when you're in the middle of influence and things going on. Like you really have to kind of take some time out to sit down and really look over your life and who you are and know and get to know yourself, get to know who you are. Because I mean, if you don't and you try to lead people, the minute somebody comes up and says, well, do this, you be like, oh, well, that sounds good, and then you're going off there. Or they say, well, go here, you're going off there, and you can't be a leader like that. If you don't know who you are, you'll just be in the wind, and then like, who's gonna follow you?
Okay, definitely. And that goes hand in hand with the next sentence, which says, to thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. So when I'm sitting there taking that time, right, considering what is my strengths and my weaknesses, how many people might have a tendency to lie about things? Which is kind of weird since you're talking about yourself, but so much of everybody else's opinion, everybody else's thoughts, what I was raised in from a cultural perspective, what people have put into me, what I've experienced in my background and my past, will have a huge influence on what I think are my strengths and my weaknesses, what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and then what can happen as a result of that. We have a distorted view of our own leadership skills. Right? Because now we've said, oh, I'm good in this area, or I'm great in that area, or sure, I can handle that with no problem. But the truth of the matter, right, when the rubber hits the road, as they say, we find ourselves failing. And unwilling to realize why I'm failing, but it's because I've not been true to myself when I was identifying and assessing what my strengths and weaknesses were. So know thyself is important, but be true to yourself is even more important. So what are 3 areas, and I've got a section here for strengths and a section here for weaknesses, that you feel are weaknesses as a leader? What are 3 areas that you feel are weaknesses as a leader? And those can include procrastination, time management, different things like that. And then what are 3 areas you feel are strengths as a leader? All right, and those can include stuff like motivation, administration, etc., etc. So take like just a couple of minutes and fill out just 3 areas that you feel are weaknesses as a leader and 3 areas that you feel are strengths. And you're going to come back to this later and see whether, upon further reflection, right, you have a change to your strengths and your weaknesses. So just 3 areas that you feel are strengths. And 3 areas that you feel are weaknesses from a leadership perspective. This can be something somebody's told you in the past. This can be something that you just kind of seen over different roles that you fulfilled, etc., etc. Give y'all like 2 minutes for that too.
My brain shut down.
Okay.
It did.
That's fine.
It did. It just, it was there and it just,
Okay.
oh my God. It did.
No problem. So you
I got
get to
pen
take it home
and
with
the word I wanted to put on there, I lost it. Jesus help me. Okay, Lord, help us, sister.
So about another minute. About another minute on that. All right, and time. All right, so again, at the end of this study, you'll come back and you'll consider, all right, what you put down today, all right, and if you want to add to it or take away, or whether our assessment was on point, you're like, yeah, I know myself, I'm good, all right, or whether you need a little bit of extra work. Okay, last paragraph here in our recap. If you fill in the blanks, good leaders acknowledge their strengths. Good leaders acknowledge their strengths and surround themselves with people who can help them in their weaknesses. Good leaders acknowledge their strengths and surround themselves with people who can help them in their weaknesses. Leadership is for you and the organization or the people whom you lead. Leadership is for you and the organization or the people whom you lead. Leadership is a perishable skill that you can always be improving upon. Leadership is a perishable skill that you can always be improving upon. This can be done by books, videos, conferences, and immersing yourselves in techniques from other leaders. This can be done by books, videos, conferences, and immersing yourselves in techniques from other leaders. Leadership is always self-development. Leadership is always self-development. Becoming a great leader takes a lifetime. Becoming a great leader takes a lifetime. So again, from the beginning, good leaders acknowledge their strengths and surround themselves with people who can help them in their weaknesses. Leadership is for you and the organization or the people whom you lead. Leadership is a perishable skill that you can always be improving upon. This can be done by books, videos, conferences, and immersing yourself in techniques from other leaders. Leadership is always self-development. Becoming a great leader takes a lifetime. Leadership is always self-development. Becoming a great leader takes a lifetime. This is as sure words as I ever wrote. So many times we think that it's something somebody's innately born with. Oh, they're just a great leader. Oh, they've always had that. Oh, look at him. You saw it as a little kid. Always taking charge, running everybody on the playground. I can never be like that. But the truth of the matter is, you can. And it's imperative that you believe in your ability to develop, because if you believe that you're able to develop it, then you will immerse yourself in whatever it takes in order to develop it. Now, the beauty of 2018, the years that we live in, is the various ways that you can learn. Maybe you're a traditional person and you like reading books, so you can read books on leadership. Dr. Maxwell has written almost 90 books on leadership. So there, right there. There's, for some people, about 10 years worth of reading right there. Right? But let's say that reading books isn't your thing. Well, we have YouTube. And all it takes is but a simple leadership in there to get 1 million hits. Everybody and their mom got something to say about leadership. It's not hard to find a leadership conference or speakers on leadership. You can get personal coaching on leadership. There is a ton of people out there who are talking about leadership, and that will be glad for you to follow them, like them, give hearts to their posts when they post about it, read their books, buy their materials, take their classes on leadership. So there's no limit to how much excuse me, you can do to gain that ability. But it comes from you. Because leadership is not something that anybody makes you take. It's voluntary that you're here this evening, and it's for your own personal growth that you're doing this. But understand that it's for your growth and the organization and the people whom you're going to lead. The better leader that you are, the more time you spend working on developing yourself, the bigger your impact will be. Now, so that you don't think it's just limited to an actual organization or a group, consider your family. In some way, form, or fashion, each of us is going to lead for our family. And the vision that we have, and the purpose that we set forth, and the motivation that we provide, in other words, the leadership skills that we bring to leading our family, will affect not only just ourselves, but it will affect generations that follow. You can literally establish what's going to happen 80, 90, 100 years from now by the leadership that you bring to your family today. And the growth that you begin in yourself will facilitate itself down the generations, creating a totally different lifeline for those people who are under your leadership. All right, so just consider that for kind of impact and purpose. Unless you're saying, well, I ain't never going to lead anybody. You got a family. Yeah. All right, so be intentional about your leadership development. So 3 elements of good leadership. All right, just in case you thought I had the whiteboard and I wasn't going to use it. So I'm going to get through our recap. Now we're going to the whiteboard. So 3 elements of good leadership. Here we go. Vision. Goals. And motivation. Vision, goals, and motivation. Now, under each of these aspects, there are various things that affect how well, as a leader, I implement my vision, and how well, as a leader, I set my goals, and how well I provide that motivation. So, starting next week, what we're going to be looking at comes from John Maxwell's people communicate, but not everybody connects. And the reason that that's important is because your ability to communicate your vision, your ability to communicate your goals, your ability to communicate properly good motivation can be hindered by an ineffectiveness to connect. See, I can speak words, but if I'm not connected with you, then I will be unable, hear me, unable to get you motivated sufficiently to accomplish these tasks. But that's a subsection of these overall. Does that make sense? So we're going to look kind of broad, and then we're going to begin to go into specifics over the next few weeks and few months as we consider different elements that hit leadership. So when I'm thinking big picture as a leader, what do I need to identify? The first thing I need to identify is vision. What is vision? So let's get some examples. Anybody thoughts offhand? What do you think of? What's the word picture that pops in your mind when you think of vision?
Blueprint, like a blueprint of what you want.
Okay, I like it. In fact, we're gonna throw some words up here. In fact, let's do this. Let's get everybody involved and moving. If you got a word, you come up here and write your word on the whiteboard. Yes. Y'all was looking like y'all was real comfortable. I know they all soft, super cushioned. Exactly. All right, so don't take up the whole board. All right, but we're talking about vision. All right, so blueprint. Good, I like it.
goodness, Jesus.
Plan and direction.
All right, plan and direction. Okay.
Teacher gonna one of those in my room.
Oh, okay, really? I wrote it just for you, Mrs. Taylor.
Right.
That way you didn't have to get up.
Gotta be extra.
I got you. See, I got you.
Okay.
We right here together, whichever color. I don't know. I got you, Mr. Taylor. Just call on me. I got you.
Okay. In advance. All right.
That's true. That's a good point. Before it happened.
Jesus.
All right. A mental picture. Okay. Anybody else? What is vision? All right. So this is good. Okay, and you can write all of those down. Vision most definitely is blueprint. The reason I think I like blueprint, probably the best out of all of them, is because when you have a blueprint, you have a picture of something that does not yet exist. A picture of something that does not yet exist. And I think at its core, that's what vision is. It's a picture of something that does not yet exist. When an architect begins to draw out a blueprint, they sit down and they have a conversation with the people about what is the design that they are envisioning. What is the idea that they want to see? And then they begin to sketch. And then they begin to draw. And then they begin to put floors here. And if you're doing a house, sink here, a bathroom there, this size wall, this open concept or this closed concept, this big house, this small house. Whatever it is, it's a vision of something that's yet to come to fruition. And so from a leadership perspective, when you're the leader of an organization, you're the leader of a group, you're the leader of anything, your vision is literally a blueprint of something that's not yet come into existence. Excuse me. What's important about understanding that is when I'm considering vision and what my vision should be, I have to understand that I may be the only one who sees it. Right? I may be the only one capable of envisioning where we're going. I may be the only one capable. Now, let's just consider some examples. We'll go to Jesus because we talked about him being the ultimate leader. What was Jesus' vision? Anybody? Okay, to save us, right? But, not just to save us, because that's real general, right? And do we want our vision to just be real general? No. All right, heads east, west. No, we don't want our vision just to be real general. And in fact, because to save us is a very general statement, right? By what way do I save? By what way do I accomplish that task? By what way will that be fulfilled?
Right.
If Jesus' vision was just to save us, then his vision is real broad with no direction.
Right.
So, to save us is good, but to save us through what?
Death.
Right? Right. Yes. Through his death on the cross. Through his life, right? Lived out holy and perfect, and then through his death on the cross, and then by his resurrection afterwards. Exactly. His death gave victory, and his resurrection allows us to have the ability to reign in heaven with him. So Jesus' vision encompassed all of those. Still broad. I'm coming to life. I'm going to live life in whatever that looks like. Right? 30 years plus 3. Right. But sin free. Exactly. And then I'm going to die. And then I'm going to be resurrected. And then I'm going to heaven.
Right.
So Jesus' vision was to ensure that he had people around him who could duplicate that sharing, right? Replicate that lessons that he learned and what he was to impact the world. So when we consider what it is that's going to make up our vision, and we're on page 3, talking about what is vision, we're considering the finer details that go into our plan. We're considering how we're going to accomplish our plan. We're considering what are the steps that need to be done in order to get there. And every step has to end at the vision, has to be working us towards the vision. Now that gets into goals a little bit more, so we're not going to go quite there. Let's talk about one more thing, and I'm going to add this one here. Vision is an end state. Vision is an end state. And what I mean by end state is where you want to end up. Where you want to end up. Zach, go ahead.
That's not a goal.
What?
A vision. I mean, end state.
End state. No, it's not a goal. And here's why. A goal is a movement towards. It's something that's going to provide me direction towards accomplishing my end state. But the end state is actually where I'm moving towards. So, for example, my end state as a pastor of a church might be to grow my congregation by 50% by the end of the year. That might be an end state. So when I have arrived there, then I have arrived at what my vision was. In a ministry context, if you have children's ministry, your vision might be for your children's ministry to do 4 plays, hold 2 service events, and grow in size by 5 additional kids. So then your goals are the steps you're going to take along the way to accomplish that. But once you've, put on the calendar, these are our 4 plays, at the end of the year, I've accomplished my 4 plays. When we've gotten to our 2 service events, so I know these are what we're working towards. So I'm communicating with somebody in the community, hey, listen, I've got 20 youth, we want to do a service event, can we come along and partner with you? Whether it's Thanksgiving, serving Thanksgiving dinner, or feed the homeless, or work communities food bank on a Saturday or something like that, those could be service events. Growing our group by 5 people, inviting, hey, bring a friend. Hey, let's go out here and talk to people. Hey, where can we get in your school and share so people see what we're doing and bring them in, all right? But I have to have that end state in mind, otherwise, what am I working towards? My vision should guide where I'm going. How I'm going to get there are my goals, but where I'm going. And more importantly, your vision lets you know when you've arrived. So why is that important? If I don't know when I've arrived, I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
And generally speaking, if I'm just going and going and going without ever arriving, I get frustrated, right? I'm going to quit. I'm going to be like, why am I walking here if I ain't got where I'm trying to get? But if you don't know where you're trying to get, you're going to be mad when you get there. The reason being able to know what your end state or your vision is because when you go to goal setting, one of the things that you want to do is what we call work backwards. Alright, so work backwards. So, here's your scenario. You've just taken over an organization or a ministry or a group where you're now the leader. You have a vision for this group. You have this idea of what it's going to look like when your fingerprints are done being on there. You have seen the potential of the people who you are going to be working with. You are excited for what you all are going to accomplish together. You have this beautiful vision. How do you get from where you are to where your vision entails you be? That is your goals. And that's what we're talking about next, okay? So let's talk about goals. What are goals? Anybody? Let's do what we did the last time. Goals. If you have an idea, come right up here on the board. What are goals? Nobody? Oh, there we go. Yes. Your first choice. There we go. She might steal yours like you stole Minister Taylor's. All right, direction. All right, markers and steps. Did you have one?
Put it, girl, put it.
He wrote it. I'm trying to think of something else.
Yeah, I think what we're doing if you stole yours.
Grandma now, you don't know how you gonna write it.
I don't write on the board like that anyway. I start at the top and I'm down to the bottom, so I finish. That's 'cause I
You
hate
can tell us, we'll write it for you.
Thank you. My goal would be to sort of process it in my mind, and lay it out in my mind, decide how to be, and then see the end goal of it, to, you know, it and get to the end of it in my mind. Then, so it would be.
So it's like an
Plan,
achievement.
achieve direction and plan.
Okay. I mean, you good, just close it off.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, plan would be a good thing. I mean, get it up and see it.
Okay, anybody else?
Were you saying something? I was saying, my word was achievement, but I was thinking about you looking at achievement. Trying to get my thoughts together and get that word I want to put out. That's what's still up there, I'm looking myself.
Okay, okay. All right, so we'll start here with these, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay. So from this idea of working backwards, right, with our vision and our end state clearly identified, we have goals. Goals being the steps, excuse me, along the path. All right, goals being the steps along the path that enable us to know we're on the right direction, right? If you're the head of your organization, right, back in our scenario, you have this beautiful end state in mind, how do I get there? Becomes the goals that I set. These goals can be milestones, they can be markers, they ensure that I stay on the right direction, I stay on the right track. They can be a system of checks.
I got another one.
What you got, Brother Anthony?
Progress.
Right? Almost basically a progress report, right? Letting you know that you're hitting where you need to be. We call them checkpoints. That's the word.
For instance, maybe you set yourself up, say, maybe if you got a 6-week goal, maybe the first week I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to sit down and decide I'm plan it out. Then the second or third week, you've planned it out. So then you've got to start executing that plan and everything. And then you start looking toward the finish line after you've executed the finish line. How do I want to succeed in this and how to...
Right, exactly. But instead of just looking towards the finish line along the way, we want to already know where the finish line is, so that we can then know I'm getting towards the finish line.
Yeah, that would make...
So let's talk about a common goal for self that a lot of people have: losing weight. Not even just losing weight. Let's call it getting in better shape. Getting in better shape. Okay? Getting in better shape.
Getting it off.
Getting it,
So,
keeping it.
Keeping it off.
we're gonna go ahead. All right, we know that we're working backwards. All right, so our goal is get in better shape. Or sorry, our vision
I like where you frame that.
is get in better. That's our end state. I just want to be in better shape. Now, for some people, this might be gaining 10 pounds of muscle, right? For some people, this might be losing 5 pounds. For some, this might be running more, right? So for some, it might be watching what I eat, changing any of those things. Okay? So this is our end state. If this is our end state, what do our goals look like?
The beginning.
All right, so we'll start in red for the beginning goals. What might be your beginning goal?
Eat healthy food.
Okay? All right, but even before that,
Know where I'm at now. Current where I'm at.
assess myself.
I was just gonna say,
Right?
good
So we
stuff.
talk about know yourself. That know yourself applies to your organization as well. I want to know the current state of where I'm at. So I call that my assessment.
I would say the current state of me. Excuse me.
All right, now, depending on how long you're going to be in charge of an organization, depending on how long you're going to be around, you may take as long as 90 days to do your initial assessment, depending on how large of an organization and how much impact you want to have. The last thing you want to do when you come in is just begin making immediate wholesale changes, right, without knowing
Gradually.
the culture, who all's there, who are the power movers in that organization. You want to spend some time building up your influence, being the informal leader by communicating, connecting, building rapport. So if we're talking about just getting in better shape and that's just something for yourself, I still want to take time and identify. Now, what'd you say?
Eating healthier.
Okay, so what are my eating habits? What are my workout habits? How much time do I have? How much time do I not have that I can substitute one item for working towards getting in better shape? So a lot of times people say, oh, I'm going to get in better shape starting the new year. Right? And then December 31st, nope, not December 31st, December 30th, you make up this plan, you're going to the gym on Monday. Or on January 1st and January 2nd. So you go into the gym on Monday. But what we failed to do was account for January 3rd when we go back to work. That now, that 8 a.m. that I went to the gym on January 2nd, I can't go to the gym there on January 3rd. But I say it's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and work out in the evenings. But I forgot that I'm tired after work. So it's real hard for me now to go do something that's going to make my body hurt if I go to the gym. So it behooves me to do my initial assessment far enough in advance so that I can make a plan for how I'm going to accomplish my goals. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, we on the same page. So getting in better shape, I'm going to do my initial assessment, and then I'm going to identify my areas of change. Identify my areas of change. Now the reason this is important is because identifying my areas of change allows me to figure out what exactly I'm looking to accomplish. What is the strengths that I want to shore up and what is the weaknesses. Now you may say, if I'm doing this organization, this thing is terrible. That's why I was brought in the first place. The old leader got fired clearly for a reason. Now I want to do wholesale changes. But the truth is probably, excuse me, the truth is probably not so extreme. There's probably some good things that can be salvaged, and here's why it's important. The people, unless you're just firing everybody completely and starting over new, have bought into whatever that system was before. Now, there may be varying degrees to which they've bought in, but they're still a part of it. They've still been working there. And if you come in and you say, you all suck, everything you did was bad, and I'm here to fix it, you will have immediately alienated Your entire group. Everybody. Exactly.
I'll be like, I give them the finger.
Right. Here comes the finger. I'm out.
Gotta go.
So even though I want to identify, I want to have areas of change, but also areas where I can say I'm doing well in. Now, when it comes to getting in better shape, if it's just you personally, yeah, you can be brutally honest, right? But there's still got to be something good about you that you like. And something that you got to be like, okay, well, this is good. All right, so maybe I like my arms. All right, maybe I like my legs. Maybe I like my motivation. You know, I know that I'm the kind of person that when I got a plan, I'm going to stick to that plan. The problem is I haven't had a plan. So let me make a plan so I can stick to that plan. I'm flexible with trying new foods. If it's just eating better, eating more healthy, I'm flexible with trying new recipes. So that's a good thing. Assess the areas of change that you want to make in order to facilitate that direction that you're going in. Okay? Without, again, trying to make wholesale changes on every single thing. Alright, so we're talking about goals. I'm going to do first my initial assessment, and then I'm going to go ahead and begin to put out my areas of change. Now, one element that we didn't mention yet, but that's a crucial part of this whole entire thing, is a four-letter word. Time.
Okay.
Time. Now, when it comes to goal setting, time is an important part of goal setting because I don't want to just say, oh, I'm going to get in better shape. I want to say, I'm going to get in better shape in 6 months. Or I'm working on being 10 pounds lighter in 6 months. Or I'm working on having reduced the number of processed foods that I intake by half in the next 3 months. Or I'm going to begin to get my protein more from plants than animals over the next year. Does that make sense? So I want to introduce a time component to ensure that I'm going and moving and have a sense of urgency about what it is that I'm doing. Time also allows you to see the return on the investment that you're doing. So let's say, for example, that you're running your organization again, right? You have this beautiful vision of what it's going to look like, and if you have no time element associated with your goals, how will you know that you're actually moving in the right direction? Or that your people are actually moving? So you've done your 90-day assessment, you said, hey, these are my areas that I think we need to make some changes in, and this is the steps by which we're going to accomplish that. In the next 30 days, what I want to begin to see is an increase in A and a decrease in B. Does that kind of make sense? Now, at the end of 30 days, because I've set that as my initial timeline, I can do a quick reassessment and see, are we hitting these markers? Oh, we haven't hit it as much as I thought it was. Why is that not happening? In the event that's not happening, then I can get with the other elements of the organization and say, hey, what happened? Now, they may say to me, well, it took 2 weeks for us to get fully on board with what you were saying. So that's why you actually see a shift. In the last 2 weeks, we've increased A. If we take another 30 days, we'll probably see the numbers that you're looking for. Okay, cool. Come back, next 30 days, assess again. Does that kind of make sense for everybody where you're at? And whether that is with a personal goal of getting in better shape, all right, so my goal was to lose 5 pounds the first 30 days. However, only lost 3 pounds in the first 30 days. Why? What happened? Was it I got too busy? I wasn't able to be consistent in my workouts? I had some initial soreness those first 2 weeks, and I was like, I ain't doing this no more. And every day was a struggle to get to the gym. And then finally, I got over that initial soreness, and I started getting those endorphins pumping. And I looked in the mirror, and I was like, ooh, look at that, yeah. And then I was like gung-ho about it. So if I don't have a time element as a part of my goals, then I'm just going to be like, oh, well, I'm sure we'll hit that marker eventually. Oh, well, I'm sure I'll hit that checkpoint eventually. And you may never hit that checkpoint.
I was just say that's bad.
Right, it is. Okay, comments. I don't want to just be the only one talking. So comments. What have you seen? How has this worked itself out? You all have worked and been a part of organizations. What are some goals or some way that goals are communicated to you all in some of the different organizations you've been a part of? No, nobody set a goal. Like I know I've seen like in some factories they'll be like 69 or we're going for X amount of days without an accident. And they'll have, every day they put 1, 2, 3, or when my mother used to work for claims for Kaiser Permanente, there was a certain amount of days they wanted to turn around for the claims. In recruiting, they want us to, they call it flash to bang. From the day we meet somebody to the day they join the Army, it should be 14 days. The Congress Recruiting Center's flash to bang is 61 days. All right. Blew that out the window. Right. So, what are some goals? What are some things that you've seen that people try to use for goal setting?
I know in that same setting, they needed to do a certain number of claims per day.
Okay.
You're required to do a certain number of claims, and if you met that certain number of claims on a daily basis, 4 days in a row, you got a half day off with pay on Friday.
Tell I was down on that one. Yes, Lord.
Okay, now tell us about why was that a goal that they would set? What was the hope with? Because how many people were working in your claims department?
It was probably about 90 to 100 people in there altogether, but that was the goal because then we had a better turnaround time for paying claims, which was a measure from the state, a mandate you had to pay your claims within a certain amount of time. They didn't want people not, to start calling saying, where's my money, why I'm to the claim, why I didn't get that kind of thing was a very negative thing that they didn't want out there.
Okay, and so for their end state would have been maintain high customer levels of satisfaction. With the subcategory of ensure claims are turned around in 45 days or less. Goals in order to make that happen were increase the number of claims handled by the claims department, broken down to the individual numbers necessary by each claims analyst, with the incentive. And then they check that on a quarterly basis, or a monthly basis, or even
a daily basis.
a daily basis.
Putting out on a daily basis.
Saying how many claims you had accomplished and
Right.
stuff like that.
And so once they did that for a month, then they raised the number of claims that you had to have.
In order to make that. And we do the same thing in recruiting. How many calls do you make? How many appointments do you make per week? How many appointments do you conduct per week? If you're not getting a certain amount, and it becomes a pure numbers game in some organizations. But when you're setting your vision and you're setting your goals, you can set them with whatever metric it is that you desire to do. But you need a metric that lets you know, hey, I'm accomplishing this, I'm moving on towards where I'm trying to get. So after you've done your initial assessment, you've identified your areas of change, and then you begin to set your goals. All right, so I want to define my goals. I'm defining my goals with a caveat to ensure that I'm utilizing time. I want to ensure that I build in for a reassessment. Okay? I always want to build in a reassessment. Now my reassessment, again, depending on the length of the time that you're going to be in your leadership position, your reassessment can be done on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, a weekly basis. Let's say that you're in charge of a play. You're going to be the one with your youth group. Your first play is going to be in March. That's when you set your date. So it's January, you've got 3 months. Probably at the end of the first month, or potentially at the end of the first or second practice, you may need to do a reassessment based on turnout, based on resources, based on people who are going to be involved, in order to ensure that your goals are actually good goals. Right? Now, you had this grand vision of a 10-stage play with 100 actors and lights and music, and on practice number 1, 8 people show up. You might want to scale that vision back a little bit, right? And go back and redefine, the size of your script. You might have had a 300-page script, You might need to turn that into like a 15-page script, right? You might need to reassess all of those things. If everybody's like, hey, I can't get here unless you come pick me up, you might have to pick a different day for practice. This is any number of, does that make sense? Right? And that's just for like a play that's being done as a part of. You can imagine that that scales up in concern depending on the size and scope of your organization. So taking the time to reassess your goals ensures that your goals are actually helping you achieve your end state. Okay? Now, what are some things that can affect your goals? And I mentioned one of them just now a moment ago. See if anybody. All right, so time, but we already got time up here.
People, I mean your
Resources.
people.
Resources, people, resources. Yes, good. Resources. All right, so right along with time, which is a resource as well. All right, your resources will affect your goals. All right, now resources can be your finances, right? That money. Just be honest. If you haven't added a budget to your vision, your initial assessment, you missed it. Okay, you go back to the initial assessment stage. You ain't ready to set goals if you didn't take consideration of your budget. The number of people, right, who are going to be a part of it. How many people are you going to have to convince to be a part of it? What days of the week? What are your available space that you can utilize? All those things are resources. What's the experience level of the people who are participating in whatever it is that you're doing? Go back to your play. How many people have ever done a play? How many people, do you have to write the script? Do you have one already? Do you have people who can work the lights? Is it a bad time of the year and you're going to lose half the people because from a church perspective in the summer, everybody goes on vacation. So now you're trying to hold, something like Vacation Bible School, but half your congregation's gone. All those things are worth considering when my end state is whatever my end state is. What are my resources that I have to go and have available to me? Now, coming back to our get in better shape, what are my resources? Can I afford to buy better food, better quality food? Costs more. Can I afford a gym membership? Exactly. And if I can afford a gym membership, can I afford a personal trainer? Because, it's good to have a gym membership, but, if I don't know what I'm doing in the gym, I'm quickly going to stop going to the gym. So, the resources that I have available to me. Now, when it comes to resources, when we're setting goals, this is where team building is extremely important. Can I think outside the box? So, if I'm like, oh, I want to get in better shape, I'm going to get this gym membership, but I can't afford a personal trainer. Do I just neglect the gym membership altogether? Maybe I reach out and I say, hey, does anybody know somebody who works out a lot? Or, oh, hey, brother, such and such, you work out a lot. Can you go to the gym? Could me and you maybe work out together? Can you show me some things? Could you help me come up with some workouts? Right? Hey, so I know that you're really into healthy eating and stuff. Any way that you maybe could help me figure out some good things to eat, kind of thing like that. My ability to think outside the box. My ability to leverage that relationship that I have. When you consider Jesus' life, how many times did Jesus reach into his pocket to accomplish it?
No.
But oftentimes he leveraged the relationships. He leveraged his influence. He leveraged that time that he spent in exchange for his time, right? He was able to partner with people in order to accomplish many things. So you're here planning an event, but have you maybe went to the church next door and said, hey, can we partner together? You've got some youth, I've got some youth. Are you planning to do this? Because if not, this is what we're looking at doing, and maybe together we can make a bigger impact. All right, does that kind of make sense? So I want to make sure that I keep my resources in mind as I'm doing my reassessment. Has there been a change in my resources? Has funding dried up? Because that happens, right? Hey, we thought we were going to have this based on what we have projected to have for this, but unfortunately now we don't have that, and you're going to have to make do with what you've already been given. And you're like, see what happened was. That's already gone.
Yes, exactly.
Because we thought, right?
Exactly.
leaders must be flexible. Leaders must be able to take this into consideration, you know, and we're going to talk about that here as the next part. But, so I do my initial assessment, I do my areas of change, I define the goals, the steps by which we're going to get there, taking into consideration time and resources, and then on an annual basis, and whether that's yearly, weekly, day-to-day if necessary, I'm going to do a reassessment to ensure that I'm on the right path towards accomplishing my goals. The last thing that was not put up here, and I want to make sure we do, is goals are wins. Goals are wins. Now, what do you mean by that? Great question. The reason we say goals are wins is because I should celebrate when I'm hitting my goals.
Right.
Right? I should take that moment and acknowledge, hey, great job, you. You're awesome.
Golden chocolate cake.
You rock. Not quite. Not if my goals get in better shape, right?
No more tears today.
Right. Stepped on that scale. Woo, woo. Don't get that chocolate. No, not at all. Okay.
This is some ice cream.
Right, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
If I have spent, remember now, during this, the vision, I have the vision, right? And now, with every goal that I hit, I'm a step closer on the vision. I'm one step, and me and my organization are a step closer towards making this happen. So I should really take a moment to say, thank you. To say, I appreciate what you're doing. To say, hey, you believed in me, right? Together, look at what we're accomplishing. We were here, but now we're here. We had all this to go through. Back in the day, you and me was about to throw elbows, but now together we're hand in hand walking, and because of what we went through initially, we're now stronger and moving even more rapidly.
So that we're seeing each other, building each other up.
Exactly. And remember this, leadership is all about replication, right? So it's not just like for me to be the only leader ever. That would totally defeat the purpose. And in fact, we've already agreed that we're all leaders. So there's no way that me being the only leader, I'm supposed to be the only one edified. We're all supposed to be growing from this. So when I'm doing my reassessment, I should be saying, hey, so tell me how this is working for you. What would you do differently? What are some concerns that you might have? And as I grow to know my people more, and as we're together working to accomplish things, what I'm going to begin to see is, well, this is an area of weakness. I'm going to put you in it a little bit more. Why? Because I want to turn it into an area of strength. Now when we accomplish that goal, I'm going to highlight the fact that this wasn't your strength, but that you've accomplished it. And whether I do that in front of the group setting, or whether I just do that in one-on-one. Hey, you know, I know that that wasn't your area, but I've seen some great and tremendous strides in there. And I'm just really proud of you and motivated and excited about what we're going to do next. When you do that, now they're ready. Now they're even more so bought in. Now they even, and here's the thing. You're looking to replace yourself anyways. Because as you grow and develop, there's going to be other opportunities that present themselves. There's going to be other areas that you can grow into and go into. There's plenty more that God wants to use you to do. Amen. It's not just limited to wherever He starts you at. But that means that you've got to grow where you're at, and then you've got to go to the next thing that He brings along. And in order for that to run successfully, that means somebody behind you has got to be able to step up. And hopefully, if you're replicating this effect, this impact even the more, then there's going to be 12 or 13 or 20 more of people who are good leaders, becoming great leaders, who can go forward and accomplish even more effectiveness and greater impact. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, we're still with that. Okay, so we want to celebrate wins. All right, so we do our reassessment, and then we're hitting our checkpoints as we go. So that's perfect. That's good. That works wonderfully well. Except, what happens when I step on the scale And instead of losing 5 pounds, I've gained 3 pounds.
You go eat cake.
Okay.
It's perfect for any occasion.
That party we celebrated because we had, you know, you
You eat it while you reassess.
While you crying.
And reassess. Oh, where did I go wrong?
Go time out of it.
Where did I go?
Eat while you
Let's figure it out.
Y'all done see a movie while we at it too.
That's all a good movie.
We gonna be there all night.
Ice cream.
All night. Sausage, hot
The
fudge.
third element of good leadership is motivation. Motivation. Okay? And the reason motivation is so important is because there's going to be days when you take a step back. There's going to be days when you get that call and you find that your funding has just been cut short. There's going to be days when everything was lined up, you were good to go, and then a key cog is like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I've got to let this go. It's too much. Unfortunately, I've got to stop. Not going to be able to attend, and my kids aren't going to be able to attend. And they had 5 kids, and they were the stars of the play. And now you're like, see what had happened was, and there's like 3 weeks to go before you're supposed to do your play, and you're just, oh my gosh, what just happened? When you step on the scale, and you look down, and you, I don't know. I mean, I'm not supposed to be +2 right now. This is wrong. This is exactly. Matt yelling for the kid. Who went on mama's scale? Wrong answer. Right, exactly. Then you realize you ain't got no pockets. Like, Alright, what does motivation look like? What do you think of with motivation? Let's get some writers on the board. Motivation. What does motivation look like?
Oh, what does it look like?
Hmm?
Okay.
What does motivation look like?
I better make sure it look like that first. No, let me go. Okay. I'll make sure nobody put my word up there.
Is that positivity?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we putting it?
Yeah, go ahead. Everybody else is at least at one point written too.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Alright, Kurt.
Great minds think alike.
Y'all so
I could
motivating.
just rub it out, you can just rewrite it.
No. It's all good.
Y'all become rich.
That's right. That's what you have to do. Praise.
Okay.
Everybody loves it. It's good for the soul. And
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Can't write like that, Joe.
it's all good. We don't have nails.
Pushing and pressing.
Push on through.
Okay.
Would you say commitment?
Would
Does that
you
make
say
any sense?
commitment?
Push and
Yeah.
press.
Okay.
Does it make any sense?
Yeah,
Push
because
and
it's
press.
like
Add that
moving
one to
forward.
there.
Yeah.
Push that press.
It has to be one word.
No. I mean, you don't write the whole sentence though. You know I'm gonna do something about it. Alright, it's inspiration.
He didn't say like the whole board now, he just
As
said,
soon as you stop thinking about it.
Come back.
Stimulation.
Okay. Oh, I just remember.
You want me to write it? That's the only way I'm motivated.
Unless you want.
You want to put that
You said commitment, right?
I have progress on their list.
See, I had a lot of things for motivation. That's
Makes
it.
you feel good.
Okay. Okay, motivation, right? Got inspiration, positivity, encouragement, praise, pushing, workout, pressing, stimulation, what you want, rewards, commitment, and progress. Okay? And I think all of those are definitely good. When I see progress, this is motivating. Let's see, when I'm committed, that can be motivating. When I'm getting rewards for accomplishing things, right, that's motivating.
Very motivating. It's making me keep going, honey. Give me
Oh,
some.
what?
On wants, we wants.
Oh, what you want?
What your wants.
Your want.
Wait, you want an R now?
Yeah,
You just take the what off. and
Anything
your
else?
want.
and that's it.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to that one. Stimulation. So, what's the? Who had stimulation? Who added that? Okay. What was the thought there? Just like.
Stimulate you to do something.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So good motivation stimulates you. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Just make sure I had the context right. All right. Pushing. Somebody pushing you, somebody pressuring you, right? You provide motivation, or motivation can be a type of that. Praise, hey, great job, keep up the good work, kind of goes hand in hand with encouragement. Positivity, people tend to prefer to work, I guess, for somebody who's positive, it's more motivating. And then inspiration, inspire me with your vision, right? With reminding me of where we are, celebrating our wins and stuff like that. Generally speaking, and I didn't skip yours, I'm coming back to it. We tend to talk about motivation of two types, or in two terms, intrinsic and extrinsic. Alright, and generally speaking, all these were extrinsic, okay? With the exception of this one right here. What's your wants? Alright? Because your wants is intrinsic. So extrinsic means external, right? External motivation pressed upon somebody, whether this happens in the form of somebody inspiring me, encouraging me, telling me, hey, you're doing a great job, etc., or, you know, hey, good job, I'm going to give you, and this was kind of funny because I saw everybody wrote in green, but nobody wrote
Money.
money. Right? I thought that's kind of what you were going for with your remorse there, right? So money can definitely be something that's a motivator, right? But it's extrinsic. Excuse me.
Comes from outside of you.
Right, comes from outside of you. It's provided by something outside of you. Intrinsic is what drives you from the inside. It's what drives you from the inside. Intrinsic things will be that stuff that you tend to do on your own. So maybe you volunteer for your charity. Maybe you go to your local church. Maybe you give back to your community. Maybe you partner with, you know, helping the blind or saving the whales. Those are the kind of things that you're not getting anything personally from except that personal satisfaction of being a part of that group, that organization, making a change in the world. So now, let me ask this. What do you think is the better motivation? Intrinsic or extrinsic?
I'll say intrinsic.
Okay.
Extrinsic.
Okay.
Intrinsic don't do nothing for me.
So I was gonna say, depends on the vision. Depends on the vision.
Right, so it depends on the vision. Okay, right, and it depends. So, now, for my extrinsic people, why extrinsically?
Because it does something for me.
Because you are in control of the priorities, and you're gonna do, and you know how much effort it's gonna take for for you, if you're the one going after the goal, you know how much and how important it is to you to set forth that goal or accomplish that goal. Intrinsic, kind of depending on something away from you, outside of you, so it's kind of more of a hoping thing. Well, I'm hoping that my vision gets accomplished by the results of something else.
Okay. All right.
I would say extrinsic for because it lasts longer, I guess, in my opinion. Like intrinsic, like okay, you saved the world, good job at the end of the day, whatever. Extrinsic, like girl, you look good. Everybody like, oh girl, every time you go by, you know, like somebody done paid you. Like if you do like a workout video, or something you done got paid, you feeling good, you got money to go do. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's just more like everybody like it's like you know that outside stuff. Oh,
Okay. All right. I got you. So let's.
Intrinsic more towards your ego.
Right, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. So wait. We're gonna. So let's go here. Let's go here. Okay. I'm with you. I like it. So let's do this thought process. All right. Okay. So now we've been talking about getting in better shape, right? As an end state and a vision. Okay? Now, we have two visions. We have get yourself in better shape, or you get your friend in better shape. Talking about motivation. Alright, now, you get yourself in better shape, you look good, people are going to notice, you feel healthier, you're going to live longer. Potentially, you're more confident in yourself. So now, a job position that you wouldn't have tried before, you do. You're successful because you're confident. You get more money, right? It's a boost to, okay? It's your motivation, right? This is one. All right, now, get your friend in better shape. You've got a friend. This is your good friend. You really care about them. They say to you, help me get in better shape. Now, as they are walking through this journey, you're walking with them. You're seeing the changes in their life. You're seeing the changes in your own life as you realize you can influence somebody. You can impact. What you have experienced is really legitimate. It works. They're posting online on their social media. People are like, oh my goodness, who's your trainer? How'd you get that accomplished?
Okay.
Then they're tagging you and everything.
Right,
and you're getting blown up. Oh my gosh, I want you to do the same thing for me.
Yeah.
Kind of things like that. Intrinsic or extrinsic motivation?
Extrinsic. I'm still benefiting.
Both.
Yeah,
Both.
Because you're motivated for your friends. That's
Exactly.
And your
And you're going to get stuff out from both. You're going to draw motivation from both. Sometimes you go to work because you're paid.
Yep.
Stop. Period.
That's the only
Period.
That's the only You want me to go to get your check. Give me my money so I can go home.
Right.
Listen, sometimes you go to work because you're paid, but sometimes you are at work because you help people. When you spend that time with somebody and you see that light bulb moment and you realize, wow, I just made an impact.
Money out of pay out there.
Right. And if we're really honest about it, most of us don't get paid what we feel we're worth.
Right.
So clearly,
I don't even do it. I do exactly what I get paid for.
So you only do about half the work.
okay.
Headphones
Wow.
on, show on.
Moving on. So clearly, we work, right, for other reasons than just pay. And some of that maybe. Now, here's why this matters. Here's why knowing this matters from a leadership perspective. Some people in your organization will only be there for an extrinsic motivation. That's what they need to do. But what you want to do is move them to a point of being intrinsically motivated. Now, we talk about stuff like Buy-in. That's a huge buzzword. Buy-in. How much buy-in do you have in your organization? How much buy-in are the people willing to do? Buy-in brings you in on the weekend to accomplish the task, even if you're not getting paid for it. Right? Because you believe in your organization, you believe in what it stands for, you believe in where you're going, the steps, the goals that are being accomplished. Excuse me. So it's important at times that I'm able to combine all of these different attributes, right, as a leader in order to provide that motivation. Because if I'm getting my friend in better shape and they step on the scale and this week we haven't lost anything, what's the motivation that I'm going to draw upon to get them to come back to the gym and keep trusting the process, to keep working on it, to keep going back to get themselves? And the same thing for myself. If I get in better shape, but I step on the scale and it hasn't changed, or I find myself having a bad day at work and now I'm sitting at home with a slice of cheesecake and 2 scoops of ice cream, and then all of a sudden I catch myself at that moment where I'm like tipping back and forth between let me go on and finish the cheesecake.
I'm going to finish the cheesecake.
Okay, right. I done took the lid off, got it out of the refrigerator, I'm gonna eat this.
I will.
Or I look and I see that picture of my family and I remember I'm doing this for them as well because I believe in the impact, and I just,
Everybody share a bite.